The On It Not In It podcast interview series. I am your host, Todd Eppert, and today I'm joined by Kelly Settle, who is the owner of Kelly Inn Commercial Photography. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, Todd. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. So I am a commercial photographer located in Springboro, Ohio. I service exclusively corporate commercial advertising work. I started my business about 20 years ago, kind of as a blend of passion and opportunity. I had worked in social work in a mental health institution for about 10 years before, and our facility closed. And I was in a place where we were lucky enough I didn't have to scramble to find a new job, and was able to kind of reinvent myself with some camera gear lying around. And I started picking up and photographing my children, and found out I was pretty good at it, and decided that maybe I would like to try my hand into turning that hobby into a viable business. At first, I really focused on trying to get my skill as a photographer up and running, and that was like most important at the time. But I quickly realized that if I really wanted to make a profit and have a viable business, I had to see this as a business and run it as such. In conjunction with, I joined a lot of professional photography like groups in nationwide and local, and hooked up with a lot of amazing, really successful photographers, got some mentorships, etc. And then that really got me to the level where I felt like that professionally and creatively, I could produce something that was worth charging for, and really able to get me to a point where I could make enough money to to support my family or send my kids to college, kind of thing. But running the business was number one. Sometimes I'll refer to myself as a commercial studio owner, a photographer second, but the business comes first. My bread and butter in the beginning was portrait photography with kids and families. Tried my hand at a lot of different things, and I really feel like I had such a passion for running the business that commercial photography was really where it was at for me. It was a time when it went from film to digital, and there was, literally I could throw a rock from my studio and hit 5 other photographers. So I was looking for a way to kind of separate from that. And commercial photography is something that's lacking, especially a female commercial photographer. It's a very male-dominated field where portrait photography is not. So it's another way I can stand out. But I definitely think my passion as a business owner and entrepreneur really helps me connect with my clients and help them tell their story through visual branding, which is something we do a lot. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that depth and detail. So, like a lot of other entrepreneurs, the working career decision was made for you. Your facility shut down, and you said, well, I could probably go back into that world, or maybe I could just do something, recreate my lot in the entrepreneurial world. So thanks for sharing that. So thinking back that 20 years ago, that obviously the first push was, hey, I'm losing my job. I want to do something different. Was there anything else that kind of sparked that? I mean, social worker does not always equate to entrepreneur, right? So was there some other spark that said, I think I want to own a business?
No, I really don't know where it came from. I mean, I just feel like it suited me. I love the freedom of it. I'm super proud of what I've built, from being in my basement to where I am today. I don't know. I honestly don't know where that came from. None of my family are entrepreneurs, maybe, an uncle here and there, but it really is something that just clicked in me, natural, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you use the word freedom, right? You now enjoy the freedom. Many entrepreneurs start the business because they want some freedom, some flexibility. You did mention in your intro your kids. I don't know how old they are when you lost your role, but maybe there was something there. Who knows what it was, but obviously there was something that said, boy, business owner could do it. And there was just, like you said, this natural spark, this natural occurrence.
Yeah. Again, I was really fortunate that my husband was really the major breadwinner at the time, so I didn't have to have something that I counted on. And it did, especially my kids were young then, they're all grown now, but they were young, and it really gave me a lot of flexibility to be there for them and, do the things that I wanted to do. It didn't have to pay for daycare, that kind of thing. So,
right.
yeah, it was a lot. Those are big perks. And now being an empty nester, my husband, we travel a lot, and I'm gone a lot. But I'm able to just be able to create my schedule around my travel, or create my travel schedule around my clients. Either way, it works for me.
Yeah. So more freedom, more flexibility, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Excellent. So, okay. So let's go back that 20 years. And it may have happened last year. It may have happened 5 years in. It may have happened 10 years in. But you clearly have learned some things along the way. You said you started as a portrait photographer, mostly kids, things like that. And then you moved into the marketing of the world of B2B, more focused on the marketing side. I love the recreating the brand, the image, the things that you shared with us in the beginning. But what are some things that maybe you thought when you started your business that haven't gone exactly the way you thought they were going to? What are some misconceptions about running a business?
Oh, well, with photography in general, is a lot of misconceptions, because a lot of it is just about, you just show up and buy a camera and take a picture. There's so much more behind that. And again, being an entrepreneur, I know that the ins and outs of, you have to plan it. You have to know what your end result's going to be. You need to have the forethought and, the strategy to know how to make all that come to fruition. So you kind of backtrack into that. There's a lot of technical expertise as well. But with commercial photography, there's a whole nother layer. You wouldn't hire like a landscape photographer to shoot your wedding, right? But you wouldn't want a wedding photographer to shoot your product either. So they don't necessarily know how to light something that's reflective, or glass, or things like that. There's a real niche in there. But again, beyond that, having experience on how to quote a commercial job is completely different, than a portrait job. There's a lot of legalities that are involved in that, with usage rights, with working in collaboration with creative agencies and art directors, and a lot of legal issues. Again, like I mentioned, just and how they can be used, how to protect yourself, but also how to protect your client as well, and educate them. Those are a lot of things I did not know. You just figure you just take pictures and deliver them, and that's it. But there's a lot that goes on beyond that. I think that photography now, there's not really a requirement for heavy education, but beyond, how to have good skill in taking photos. And I think that's a real downfall for our industry in general. People don't know how to charge correctly. They don't know how to run a business. I'm super passionate about that. I'm going to try to get into some mentorships with other people and help bring them up, because it's only going to help my industry. I think we all should have kind of a median amount that we charge, but people don't. They don't understand the cost of doing business, for instance, those kind of things that I didn't know, in the beginning. But I was fortunate, again, to have some really great mentors. But I also was smart enough to seek out, I took business classes, and some in particular to photography, and some that were just general. I listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books, and in and on it as like right up my alley. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Sharing the fact that, hey, you mentioned at the very beginning, you lost your job, you had some camera equipment laying around. I'll take some pictures of my kids. Maybe I'll start a business around this. And then you've really learned what it means to run a business. And then you've transformed several times along the way to meet the market space that you wanted, and all the legalities, the complexities that have come about in reforming it and rebuilding your business. So I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs have to go through, right? We have to constantly learn and grow. I love that you harken back to taking some business classes. I think no matter what you do, whether you're a food truck owner or a photographer, or a plumber, or an electrician, or an accountant, it doesn't matter. You have a skill, but it obviously, and many times, doesn't mean you know how to run a business. And so it's good to go take some business courses or get some mentoring along the way of how to run a business, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sure.
Thanks for sharing that. So you've already told us that your work-life balance is perfect today because you travel all the time, you just work around it. But again, you've probably crafted that over 20 years. So what are some strategies you keep in place that you've developed over the years to really maintain work-life?
No, it's not perfect, because I find myself squeezing a lot into a little space, with I'm scrambling to get things done before I leave, and then I'm scrambling when I get back to, get caught up again. I do a lot of outsourcing, so that helps. Not a lot, but quite a bit. So in the post-production area of my business, so that does help take some things off my plate. I've learned along the way that you don't have to have control, especially over all of those things. A lot of stuff that I don't need to be doing. So that helps that balance, as well as, if, trusting others and seeking out things that you don't have to do. I have a studio manager who is contract employee. She does a lot of my social media. I'm planning, helping me develop blogs, and that I do obviously have final approval and final say. And we do all, create those together, the concepts, but kind of that middle piece of it, she does a lot of that. So that's really great. She helps me create shot lists with my clients and, things like that. So that's another way I can help, balance, what I'm doing is when I'm plugged in and when I'm here. Either if I'm not shooting, I'm not necessarily making money. And, other than that, booking clients and in seeking out new work is the other way I can make money. So those are the things I focus on mostly. Again, we travel a lot, so work-life balance, that helps me with the life piece of it and finding a lot of joy in that. And I've started to incorporate doing some travel photography within that. So that helps because there's a big piece of me that's very creative. So running the business, although it's very rewarding, isn't always creatively, inspirational for me. So I've started to seek out things that necessarily aren't paid for, that I'll pay to have someone teach me how to shoot the Milky Way, for instance. I just shot the solar eclipse. It was really cool. We had totality here, so it was really interesting. And so I love to do that as well. But sometimes I just want to leave my camera at home and just relax. So I do a little bit of both. I also do a lot of workshops and photography workshops and learn a lot of new things. And that helps me creatively as well. I connect a lot with other business owners. I'm on the board of our Chamber of Commerce locally here. And I love that too, because it's a lot about lifting up other businesses, as well as the networking piece, which is great. But I love to help the other business owners. And, if there's anything I can offer, or I get a lot back from it as well. And that inspires me on another level.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I love that. Great answer. That's going to really give me a good pivot to the next question. So in the beginning, you talked about one of the major changes that you had to deal with in your own industry, which was moving from film to digital, right? The world is constantly changing. There's always something new right around the corner. And if we're not looking for it, it's going to run us over, basically. And so you've obviously had to adapt and change. And you talked about classes that you've taken and things like that. But are there other things that you do to remain innovative? You already said how you recreated yourself several times. So how do you stay in the forefront with these companies that you're serving as a bring their brands to life photographer?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a mindset, and it's easy to get stuck, in your ways. I'm naturally really curious, and I love to learn. So I do remember that switch from film to digital, that a lot of photographers were left behind. They didn't think it would stick around, or they wanted to remain a purist, and I don't believe in that ideology at all. I think AI is going to be our next big step. I've recently tried to start to incorporate that in my business. It's not going anywhere. We're going to have to harness it. I think it can enhance what we do. I do not think it's going to take my job. I don't. There may be aspects of things that I do today that I won't do in the future because of it, but it'll add something else in another way. I'm not afraid of it. I'm actually kind of excited about it. I think it's actually, it could be really cool creatively. It's another creative outlet for us. You're still creating something. It just may not be behind the camera. Right now I'm doing things where I'm shooting, product, and then using AI to incorporate into a background that maybe you typically wouldn't be able to have access to or see, or it would just be, it'd be too expensive to create. So we can do it here and do it in Midjourney or any other, application there is out there. So I'm loving to do that. I'm just always looking for a new way to serve my clients, and I think that's, and just to keep relevant. And for me, that just keeps me motivated. It's another one of those things that inspires me.
Yeah, it sounds like that's also another avenue for your creativity to come out, right? Is in
Hmm.
this, maybe utilizing the AI stuff.
Yeah,
Excuse
for
me.
sure.
So, yeah, so without revealing any secrets or anything about your business, can you give us any plans, any ideas around what your future goals are for your business in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, after 20 years, I'm pretty happy, all in all. It's a grind, right? I mean, it's a hustle. I'm constantly hustling. I'm constantly trying to get new clients, trying to drum up new business. I'm my industry is specifically is kind of sometimes is a one and done. Once I produce something for a client, sometimes they don't need anything again for 5 or 6 years, if ever, depending on, what it is. So I'm always having to reach for something new, right? So I'd love to get to the point where I have enough of that coming in on a day-to-day basis that I could employ associate photographers full time. Currently have a few that I use as subcontractors, which is great. But I'd love to have somebody here with me that, as I start to plan my exit, that maybe they could take over or, take the business on further. I'd love to see that happen. Personally, I'd like to give back to my photography community that I already mentioned. I'm looking to do some mentorships and maybe possibly some teaching. Like I mentioned, the business has a lot of pitfalls. It's not easy to succeed. Generally, as a rule of thumb, and I think this is with a lot of small businesses, but photography in general, within 5 years, I would say it's shorter. I would say 3 years. If they open a studio brick and mortar within 3 years, if they're still around, they might stick around for a while, but usually 2 or 3 year lifespan. And I'd like to see that, not be the case. I'd love to bring other photographers up and show them how running the business, because it really is about the business part of it. You can be the best photographer in the world and not have any business. And you can be the worst and have a great booming business, or not the worst, but a mediocre. So,
Yeah.
I'd love, it's about the art, but in the end of the day, it's about the numbers. So.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to ask you a different question than I asked a lot of people, just because I'm looking over your shoulder and I'm seeing all your wonderful awards. So what's your favorite one back there? Maybe might be bad because maybe somebody recognizes you. You want to pick anybody out, but what's the one you're most proud of?
I'm very proud. These heads here are Hermes Awards, and they are they're from I'm trying to remember the American Advertising Federation. So
Cool.
I do a lot of stuff within Professional Photographers of America, and I have my master's degree from there, and I'm a certified professional photographer, and that's in the arena of all photographers. So when you do competitions or things, it's judged by photographers, and it's in that photography world. But these here specifically come from advertising. So for me as a commercial photographer, to have someone in the advertising world judge my work and, really give, I mean, these are the gold awards. So that to me, meant a lot. I wouldn't say more, it's just a different accolade that I appreciate, because it's hard to be recognized in that arena. You're looking at national ad agencies that, little old Kellyanne Photography in Springboro, Ohio came in. So I'm pretty proud of those.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. That was kind of an on the spot. I apologize. You probably
Yeah.
did that one as a warning, but good job. I appreciate you feeling that one well. So
Yeah.
one final question for you, Kelly, and that is, what advice would you offer to aspiring entrepreneurs, or maybe someone that started their business, they're kind of hitting a wall through it? What would you tell?
I think that in the photography in general, that again, it's not necessarily all about the art. You definitely have to be able to produce quality work and stand behind it. I mean, that's number one, but it's just as important, or they go hand in hand, to be able to lead, to sell, to communicate with your clients, and run that business in a way that's profitable and that is sustainable. It's not sustainable to shoot, every day of the year, 10 shoots, a week that are, half days and not charging enough, work less, work smarter, not harder. I'd also, the biggest thing to me is looking for mentors, coaches, really educating yourself and take risks, put yourself out there. I remember the first time when I opened my first studio, I had been in my house for a long time, and then I co-opted the studio for a while, and getting the keys to my first place was a very scary moment, really putting myself on the line that I've got to make a rent and I've got to, pay all these things. And it paid off tenfold, that leap. And then, it's just been bigger jumps, bigger studios and bigger spaces. And I think not to be afraid. Somehow it just comes. You just keep working on it, and it comes. Lean on the people around you to help you do it.
Yeah, well, I don't think it just comes. I think you probably worked really hard to get there, but it sounds like don't give up. Work really hard. Take some chances.
Take some chances.
You mentioned some things about your business model specifically around photography, but every business owner should think about how much energy am I putting into it? Am I charging the right amount? Right? That's really important that we charge the right amount. So really good advice. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you, Kelly, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time on the podcast. It's great meeting you, learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. To everyone watching and listening, we look forward to hearing and seeing you on our next episode.